Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles.
Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. My brother slept with my wife for 7 months. My parents defended him, saying he was just helping her feel less lonely because I was too busy. I'm a 30-year-old man, and I never thought I'd be writing this, but here we are. I apologize in advance for the wall of text, but I need to get this off my chest. Maybe hearing from others who have been through a similar nightmare will help me, or maybe this will help someone else. This nightmare began 3 years ago when I was still married to Sabrina. We had been together since sophomore year of college, almost 12 years total before everything fell apart. I always thought we had something solid. We survived the struggles of post-college poverty, my mountain of medical school debt, her career changes, and even a miscarriage that nearly broke us. But apparently, we couldn't survive my own brother. To understand this disaster, I need to explain the family dynamic. I'm the oldest, and my younger brother is Jared, a 33-year-old man. Since we were kids, Jared was the golden child who could do no wrong. My parents, especially my father, treated him like he was God's gift to humanity. I was the responsible one, the one who worked my butt off for recognition, while Jared coasted through life on his charm and my parents' deep pockets. For example, when I graduated from medical school and landed a residency at a prestigious hospital after working 80-hour weeks and drowning in $280,000 of student loans, my parents only sent a generic congratulatory text. But when Jared finally finished his business degree after 6 years of partying and C averages, they threw him a huge graduation party and bought him a brand new BMW for graduating with a 2.4 GPA. That was my life. When I bought my first house entirely with my own money, my parents came to see it, criticized the neighborhood, and asked why I hadn't gotten something better. 2 months later, they co-signed for Jared's condo in a trendy part of the city and paid the down payment. Despite all of this, I tried to maintain a relationship with Jared. He was my brother, and I foolishly thought blood meant something. Maybe that's why I didn't see what was happening right in front of me. I remember one Thanksgiving when I had just finished a 36-hour shift at the hospital and was completely exhausted. Jared showed up 2 hours late with some ridiculous excuse about traffic. Instead of calling him out, my mom kept his food warm and went out of her way to cater to him. Meanwhile, she had earlier criticized me for looking unprofessional because I hadn't had time to shave that morning after saving 3 lives in the ER. The favoritism was so obvious that even the extended family noticed. My cousin Maria once pulled me aside at a family gathering and said, "It's like you're invisible when Jared is in the room." She wasn't wrong. At my grandfather's funeral, my eulogy, I was the only grandchild who followed in his medical footsteps, was cut short because we were running late. But they gave Jared 10 minutes to ramble on about 2 fishing trips he had taken with Grandpa. When I met Sabrina in college, I felt like I finally had something that was completely mine. She was incredibly intelligent, ambitious, and had a contagious laugh that could light up any room. We connected instantly. She was studying marketing while I was in pre-med. We were both ambitious and understood the grind of endless nights studying. By senior year, we were already living together in a small, run-down apartment off campus, sharing ramen and dreaming about our future. I remember our first place had a terrible leak in the bathroom ceiling. We couldn't afford to move, so we rigged an elaborate system of plastic sheets and buckets that we had to empty several times a day. Instead of complaining, Sabrina turned it into a game. Whoever emptied the most buckets in a week got to pick the movie for date night. That was the kind of person she was, or at least, the kind of person I thought she was. My parents weren't thrilled when I brought Sabrina home for the first time. She came from a working-class family. Her dad was a plumber and her mom a school secretary. My mother, especially, made little remarks about her clothes and her accent. Sabrina grew up in rural Pennsylvania, and looking back, I think my parents always expected me to marry someone from our social circle, that is, someone with money and connections. Classic elitist mindset. We got married when I was 28 and Sabrina was 26, after I finished medical school and started my residency. Our wedding was modest since we paid for it ourselves. My parents contributed exactly $500, which my mother made sure to mention during her speech. We would have liked to do more, but we're saving for Jared's future, she said. Meanwhile, they had already told us they were setting aside $75,000 for Jared's wedding, even though he was single and dating a different girl every weekend. At our reception, my father's toast spent more time talking about Jared's recent job offer than about Sabrina and me. While we celebrate that Ronan has found his match, we are also proud to announce Jared's acceptance at Merrill Lynch with a signing bonus quite impressive for someone his age, he said. Sabrina squeezed my hand under the table, and I remember thinking how lucky I was to have someone who truly understood what I was going through. The first 5 years of our marriage were good, despite the challenges. I worked insane hours as a resident and later as an emergency room physician, while Sabrina built a solid career in digital marketing, eventually rising to a management role. We finally bought a modest 4-bedroom house in a good neighborhood with excellent schools. We even started talking about trying for another baby after the miscarriage we'd suffered 2 years earlier. We had routines that kept us connected despite my chaotic schedule. Sunday mornings were sacred. We always made breakfast together and took a walk in the park nearby. We had a standing date every other Wednesday, and when I worked night shifts, Sabrina would leave little notes in my lunch with jokes or encouraging messages. I truly thought we were solid and unbreakable. That's when Jared started showing up a lot. At first, it seemed innocent. His new apartment happened to be only 15 minutes from our house, even though it was 40 minutes from his work. He began dropping by unannounced, always when I was working night shifts at the hospital. He'd bring dinner for Sabrina or offer to help with things around the house. I even thanked him for taking care of Sabrina while I was on 24-hour shifts. What a complete fool I was. Looking back, there were so many warning signs. Sabrina started dressing differently, wearing more makeup even on weekends. She was constantly on her phone and would take calls in another room. For the first time in our entire relationship, she put a password on her phone, saying it was for work security reasons. Our intimate life, which had always been great, almost disappeared. She was always tired, had a headache, or stressed about work. I noticed she'd started buying new lingerie, not scandalous, but different from her usual style. When I asked about it, she said her friend Lisa had recommended a new brand that was more comfortable, and I believed her. She stopped sharing details about her day. Before, she'd tell me about work dramas or something funny that happened at lunch, but now, when I asked how her day went, she'd just say fine or busy and quickly change the subject. If I asked if everything was okay, she'd get defensive and accuse me of overreacting. I chalked it up to both of us being busy and stressed. I was working over 60 hours a week at the hospital, and she had taken on more responsibility at her job. Plus, we were trying to have a baby again, which only added pressure. I never suspected Jared, not for a second. He was my brother, after all. The way I found out wasn't dramatic or from catching them in the act. It was something stupidly ordinary and devastating at the same time. It was our anniversary, and I had switched shifts with a colleague to surprise Sabrina. I left work early, bought her favorite flowers, sunflowers and champagne, and headed home around 2 p.m., thinking she believed I'd be at the hospital until midnight. As I pulled onto our street, I saw Jared's BMW in the driveway. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe he was dropping something off. But then I noticed Sabrina's car was in the garage, which meant she either called in sick or was working from home. Still, my stupid brain didn't put the pieces together. I thought maybe she wasn't feeling well, and Jared had brought her soup or something. I was even thinking about thanking him for being so thoughtful. I entered the house through the garage using my code, planning to surprise Sabrina. The house was quiet, but I heard faint music coming from upstairs. I crept up with the flowers and champagne in my hands, thinking I'd surprise her in her office. The bedroom door was slightly ajar, and there they were. I didn't catch them in bed or anything explicit. What I saw was worse. They were lying on our bed, the bed I had paid for. In the house I had almost entirely paid for. Jared was in his underwear, his arm around Sabrina, who was wearing only a t-shirt, my damn medical school t-shirt. They were drinking wine and laughing at something on their phone, looking so comfortable, so intimate, like a real couple. I stood there for what felt like hours, watching them through the crack in the door. They hadn't noticed I was there. They looked genuinely happy, happier than Sabrina and I had been in months. That was what crushed me the most. Finally, I pushed the door open. The expressions on their faces were unforgettable. Shock, guilt, then a flash of annoyance at being caught. Sabrina scrambled to cover herself while Jared just sat there, not even trying to move. How long? Was all I could manage to say. Sabrina started to cry, but Jared actually smiled. A smug, infuriating smile. In my house, in my bed, with my wife. Come on, man, he said, as if we were debating a trivial game. These things happen. I don't remember dropping the champagne bottle, but I remember the crash as it shattered on the hardwood floor. The flowers scattered too. Sabrina tried to speak through her tears, but I couldn't take my eyes off Jared's arrogant face. Ronan, please, let me explain, Sabrina pleaded. It's not what you think. I finally found my voice. You're half naked in bed with my brother on our anniversary, and it's not what I think. What followed was a blur of yelling, crying, and pathetic excuses. Apparently, they had been sleeping together for almost 7 months, nearly the entire time Jared had been stopping by to help. We didn't want it to happen, Sabrina kept repeating. It just did. Jared finally got out of bed and had the audacity to reach for my shoulder. Look, man, we were going to tell you. We just couldn't find the right time. I slapped his hand away and told them both to get out of my house. Sabrina begged to talk it through calmly, But I was done. I threw Jared's clothes into the hallway and warned him if he didn't leave within 2 minutes, I'd break every bone in his body. That's when he finally looked scared, the first real emotion I'd seen from him. They scrambled to get dressed and rushed out. Downstairs, I grabbed a garbage bag and started stuffing Sabrina's things inside. By the time they came down, I already had 3 full bags and was working on a 4th. Ronan, please, Sabrina sobbed. Let us talk. I made a terrible mistake. I kept packing her designer clothes into garbage bags. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary or burning dinner. Sleeping with my brother for 7 months is a series of choices made every single day. They left with trash bags full of their belongings, and that same day, I changed the locks. The worst part? While cleaning up the shattered champagne glass, I found an anniversary card Sabrina had bought for me, hidden in her nightstand drawer. It had a generic message about love standing the test of time, signed, "Forever yours, Sabrina." The nerve. She planned to give me an anniversary card, then go back to bed with my brother. The next day, I thought my family would be furious at what they had done to me. How naive I was. The day after I found them, I got a call from my mother. I was still in shock and sleepless, torn between throwing away all our wedding photos or setting fire to the bedroom furniture. I answered, hoping maybe, just maybe, my mother would offer some support. Instead, she started with, "Jacob is very distraught. No, how are you, Ronan?" Or, "I'm so sorry this happened." Her first concern was that precious Jared was upset. Jared is upset? I let out a hollow laugh that even startled me. "My wife was with my brother," I said. There was a pause. Then she said something I'll never forgive her for. "Maybe if you had been home more instead of always working, Sabrina wouldn't have been so lonely." That's right, she blamed me for my wife's betrayal with her own son. And she didn't stop there. "You know," she continued, "Jack and Sabrina have a lot in common. They're both so creative and sociable. You've always been so intense. Maybe this is for the best." I hung up and threw my phone against the wall so hard it shattered. Then I sat on the kitchen floor and cried for the first time since I was a teenager. The next day, my father called on the landline. Yes, I still had one. His approach was different, but just as infuriating. "This family drama is bad for business," said my father, the successful real estate developer who always cared about appearances. "We need to resolve this quietly. Jared feels terrible about how you found out, but what's done is done." "The way I found out," I repeated. "The problem isn't how you found out," he said as if I were a difficult child. "Ronan, these things happen in families. The important thing now is to handle it with dignity. No one needs to know the details. We'll say you and Sabrina grew apart, and that eventually, after a respectful amount of time, she and Jared found comfort in each other." I laughed again, same creepy laugh. "You want to rewrite history to protect Jared's reputation? Typical. I'm trying to protect our reputations," my father said sternly. "Including yours." "I don't give a damn about my reputation," I snapped. "And as far as I'm concerned, I no longer have a brother or parents, for that matter." I hung up on him too. The next few weeks were a blur of rage and paperwork. I filed for divorce immediately, citing adultery and specifically naming Jared. I knew this would make the divorce public record, something potentially embarrassing for my family so obsessed with their perfect image. Sabrina tried reaching out multiple times, leaving tearful voicemails begging for a chance to explain, as if there was any explanation that could justify what she'd done. I blocked her number. Jared once showed up at my house, but I met him at the door with a baseball bat and a warning. If he set foot on my property again, I'd make sure he'd be drinking through a straw for 6 months. He retreated quickly. My colleagues at the hospital noticed something was wrong, but I brushed off their concerns. I threw myself into work, taking extra shifts to keep busy and avoid my empty house. On my rare days off, I started boxing at a local gym, punching bags instead of my brother's face. Then came the email from my mother that finally pushed me over the edge. The subject line simply read, "The engagement." The email was brief and direct. "Ronan, Jacob and Sabrina have decided to make their relationship official. They are engaged and plan to marry in June at the country club. Your father and I will be hosting. We know this is difficult, but Jared has asked you to be his best man. He says that despite everything, you are still his brother, and he wants you by his side on his special day. This could be a good opportunity to heal. Families should stick together no matter what. Please call me when you're ready to talk. Mom." I read it 3 times, convinced it was some kind of sick joke. Officially together? 6 weeks in and already engaged? And Jared wanted me to be his best man? I might have laughed if I weren't so furious. The sheer arrogance and total lack of awareness was staggering. I printed the email and stuck it to my refrigerator as a reminder of who my family really was. I didn't reply. Instead, I went to the gym and hit the punching bag until my knuckles bled. The next day, I got a text from Jared. "I already got the time off for the engagement party next month. Hope you come, we need to bury the hatchet, bro." That's when I decided the high road was no longer an option. These people, my so-called family and my cheating ex-wife, weren't just moving on with their lives. They were actively trying to drag me into their story, trying to make what they'd done seem like some minor quarrel. Finally, I replied to my mother's email. Let me be very clear, I will not attend any engagement party, wedding, or family event where Jared and Sabrina are present. Jared is no longer my brother, and you are no longer my parents. If you support this sham of a relationship, go ahead with your wedding plans, but know that by doing so, you are choosing Jared over me for the last time. My mother's response came within minutes. You are being childish and selfish. This isn't just about you. Jared and Sabrina are in love, and Sabrina is pregnant. You need to grow up and accept that life doesn't always go as planned. Pregnant. That word hit me like a freight train. Sabrina was carrying my brother's child, Sabrina, who had cried in my arms after our miscarriage, promising we would try again when the time was right. Apparently, the time was right, but not with me. I remember sitting at my kitchen table, staring at that email for what felt like hours. Then, something inside me snapped, not in a violent way, but in a moment of crystal clear clarity. These people were not worth my pain. They were not worth my anger. They certainly weren't worth my forgiveness. That night, I made a decision. No more being the bigger person, no more turning the other cheek. It was time to show my family and Sabrina exactly what they had lost. That same day, I also decided to seek therapy. I was clearly struggling to process everything. And though revenge might feel good in the moment, I needed to make sure I wasn't destroying myself in the process. It turned out to be one of the best decisions I ever made. The therapist helped me understand that what I was feeling, betrayal, rage, pain, was completely normal. These were natural reactions to trauma. She also guided me to channel those emotions into more constructive outlets instead of just obsessing over ruining Jared's life, although I still did plenty of that. Over the next few months, I focused on transforming myself and my life. I hired the most ruthless divorce lawyer in the city, a woman known for leaving unfaithful spouses financially wrecked. I made sure Sabrina knew exactly who was representing me. At work, I accepted a promotion to chief of emergency medicine, a position I had previously declined because it demanded even more hours away from home. Now, that didn't matter. The substantial salary increase would help with my plans. I sold the house, my house, for which I had paid 90% of the down payment. Sabrina fought for a fair share, but my lawyer tore through the evidence of her adultery. In the end, Sabrina walked away with far less than she expected. I bought a sleek penthouse downtown, with floor-to-ceiling windows and panoramic views. I hired a personal trainer and committed to working out 6 days a week, channeling my anger into sculpting my body. I replaced my sensible sedan with a Porsche 911, something I'd always wanted but deemed impractical while married. I also began dating nothing serious, just dinners with attractive, successful women. I made sure these dates were at well-known restaurants where mutual friends might see us, and I was always the perfect gentleman, charming, attentive, generous. Word of this reached Sabrina, just as I expected. One of her friends, Megan, even messaged me on Facebook. You look amazing, Ronan. Sabrina mentions you sometimes. I think she regrets what happened. I didn't reply, but the next day, I posted a photo of myself at a concert with my date, the same concert Sabrina and I had planned to attend before everything fell apart. Meanwhile, I was making other moves quietly. I hired a private investigator to look into Jared's new investment firm, which was largely funded by my parents. The investigator found that Jared was cutting corners, making risky investments, and possibly falsifying returns to clients. I also learned, through contacts at the hospital, that my father had been diagnosed with stage 2 prostate cancer, but was keeping it a secret. He had been advised to have surgery, but was delaying treatment, probably so he wouldn't appear weak during the engagement celebrations. Most importantly, I heard through hospital grapevines that Sabrina had lost the baby she miscarried at 10 weeks. I felt a brief pang of sympathy, knowing how devastating that was firsthand. But then I remembered her betrayal, and that sympathy turned into steely resolve. 2 weeks before the lavish engagement party my parents had planned at the country club, I received a call from Sabrina. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Ronan. Her voice was small, hesitant. Please don't hang up. What do you want? I kept my tone neutral. I lost the baby. She started to cry. Jared has been different since. Distant. I don't know if he ever really wanted a child, or if he was just excited to have something that was his and not yours. I said nothing. Your mom's been horrible about it, she continued. She implied I somehow failed, that maybe I wasn't taking care of myself properly, as if I wanted this to happen. I stayed silent. I know you hate me, she finally said, and you have every right to. I miss you. I miss what we had. I made the biggest mistake of my life, and now I know what I threw away. Is that all? I asked coldly. No, she whispered. Jared's firm is in trouble. Some clients are threatening to pull out, and your dad is sick but refuses treatment. Everything is falling apart, and I don't know what to do anymore. I paused, then said, sounds like you made your bed, Sabrina. Now lie in it with my brother. I hung up. My heart was pounding. The pieces were coming together faster than I expected. It was time to speed up my plan. The night of the engagement party arrived a black tie event at the country club with over 200 guests. My parents had spared no expense for their precious Jared and his soon-to-be wife. Despite my father's health issues and Jared's financial troubles, of course, I wasn't invited. But that didn't mean I couldn't make an appearance. In the weeks before, I'd carefully accidentally run into several family friends, expressing my sadness about the upcoming wedding but insisting I wish them well. Family is family, after all, I'd say with a wistful smile. People bought it. Poor Ronan, so mature despite his brother stealing his wife. That night, I wore my best suit, a tailored navy blue with a crisp white shirt and gold cufflinks that had belonged to my grandfather. I looked good, better than good. Months of training and my new lifestyle had transformed me. I arrived at the country club just as dinner was being served. The maitre d' recognized me. I had slipped him $500 earlier that week to make sure I wasn't stopped. He nodded discreetly as I passed, pretending not to see me. The ballroom was lavishly decorated, white roses everywhere, crystal chandeliers, champagne flowing. I paused at the entrance, taking in the scene. My parents sat at the main table with Jared and Sabrina. My father looked thin and gaunt despite his forced smile. My mother was animated, playing the perfect hostess. Jared appeared stressed, constantly checking his phone. Sabrina looked miserable in her designer dress, forcing smiles for the photos. I walked in confidently. It took a few seconds for people to notice me, then whispers started. Heads turned. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. I smiled politely and made my way to the bar, ordering a sparkling water. My mother was the first to see me. Her face went white. She nudged my father, who looked up and froze. Jared was chatting animatedly with someone who seemed like a potential investor and didn't notice me right away. Sabrina was the last to see me, and when she did, something flickered across her face: relief, hope, panic all at once. I took my drink and walked straight to their table, stopping right in front of them. The entire room was watching now, holding its breath. Ronan, my mother hissed. What are you doing here? I smiled warmly. I'm celebrating my brother's engagement, of course. Isn't that what family does? Jared finally noticed me and stood up abruptly. What the hell, Ronan? He demanded. Sit down, Jared, I replied, still smiling. I'm not here to make a scene. I just thought I'd come and congratulate you in person. Sabrina looked up at me, eyes wide. Ronan, she whispered. I nodded toward her. Sabrina, you look lovely. Marriage clearly agrees with you. Oh wait, you're not married yet, just engaged to my brother after cheating on me with him for months. My mistake. My father stood up, swaying slightly, looking ill. Ronan, this is not the time or the place, he said. I disagree, I said pleasantly. This is exactly the time and place. All your friends are here, all your business partners, everyone who matters in this family. So everyone should know the truth. I turned to the room and raised my glass. A toast to the happy couple, my brother Jared, who slept with my wife behind my back for 7 months before I found them in my bed, and to Sabrina, my cheating ex-wife, who has apparently managed to climb up in the family. I hope you will all join me in congratulating them on finding true love through betrayal and deceit. The room felt utterly silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Oh, and since we're sharing news, I continued cheerfully, there are a few other matters you might be interested in. My father has cancer but refuses treatment because appearances matter more than his health. My brother's investment firm is under investigation for fraud. The promised returns are not what they seem. And the baby they were expecting is gone. As is my respect for everyone at this table. Jared lunged at me, but he was too slow. I dodged easily, and he stumbled, knocking over champagne glasses. You scumsucker, he snarled. You're trying to ruin everything because you're jealous. I laughed, genuinely amused. Jealous of what? Your failing business? Your relationship built on betrayal? No, Jared. I don't feel envy. I'm free. I turned to leave, but Sabrina grabbed my arm. Ronan, please, she whispered urgently. We need to talk. Things aren't what they seem. Jared isn't who I thought he was. He's changed. I looked at her hand on my arm, then at her face. That's the problem with liars and cheaters, Sabrina. They don't lie and cheat just once. It becomes who they are. I gently removed her hand and walked away. Behind me, I could hear my mother's frantic attempts to salvage the situation, my father's labored breathing, Jared's angry denials about his business, but I didn't look back. Outside, the night air was cool and clean. I handed my ticket to the valet and waited for my Porsche. As I did, guests began emerging from the ballroom, some shocked, others whispering excitedly. Several of my parents' oldest friends nodded respectfully as they passed. My phone vibrated with a message from Sabrina. Please call me. I made a terrible mistake. I want to fix things. Then another from Jared. You're going to regret this, brother. I swear to God. And finally one from my mother. Your father collapsed. We're taking him to the hospital. Is this what you wanted? I deleted all 3 messages without replying. The next morning, I was bombarded with calls my father had indeed been taken to the hospital. As chief of emergency medicine, I was notified immediately when my father was brought in. However, I assigned his care to another physician. He was stable, but would require the surgery he had been putting off for far too long. Meanwhile, Jared's world was unraveling. One by one, his business partners were pulling out, and the SEC had officially launched an investigation into his firm. Sabrina had moved out of their apartment, unable to handle the fallout. In the weeks that followed, Jared called daily, leaving increasingly desperate voicemails, apologies, confessions of long-held jealousy, and pleas for help with his legal troubles. My mother flooded my inbox with emails, alternating between emotional guilt trips about my father's condition and appeals for family reconciliation. But the most relentless of them all was Sabrina. She began appearing everywhere, at the hospital, the gym, even at my new penthouse. Always in tears, always apologizing, claiming she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. She'd even cut her hair, the long hair I used to love, into a short, severe bob. Her designer wardrobe was gone, replaced with modest outfits, as if trying to recreate the version of herself I'd fallen in love with back in college. But that woman didn't exist anymore. One day, she cornered me in the hospital parking lot. Ronan, please, just 5 minutes. I've been trying to reach you for weeks. I have nothing to say to you, I replied, heading for my car. Jared was a mistake, she said, trailing behind me. A horrible mistake. He never loved me, he just wanted what you had. And once you were out of the way, he changed. He'd stay out late, flirt with women in front of me. When I lost the baby, he actually said, maybe it was for the best. I stopped and turned to her. And that surprises you? Did you really believe that a man who could sleep with his brother's wife behind his back for months would be faithful to you? She flinched. I deserve that. I know I do. But Ronan, what we had, it was real. We can fix this. I know we can. I laughed. There's nothing to fix, Sabrina. You destroyed everything. And the worst part is I'm glad you did. Now I see you for who you are. I see my family for what they are. And I'm better off without any of you. You don't mean that, she said, tears streaking her face. I know you don't. I've never meant anything more, I replied, getting into my car. Don't contact me again. After weeks of relentless pressure, I finally agreed to meet with the 3 of them, Jared, Sabrina, and my mother, in a neutral location, a private room in an upscale downtown restaurant. They arrived together. Jared looked worn down, his suit rumpled. My mother looked thin, anxious. Sabrina hovered on the fringe of the group, hesitant and unsure. Thank you for coming, my mother began. We know you're angry, but we're family. We can get through this. I smiled. I'm not angry anymore. I'm indifferent. There's a big difference. Jared leaned forward, his voice strained. Look, Ronan, I messed up. I know that. But I'm drowning here. The SEC is on my back, investors are suing, and my reputation is in shambles. I need your help. My help? I raised an eyebrow. What could I possibly do for you? Your college friend, Tim Morrison, he works at the SEC now. Could you talk to him? Tell him I made some bad decisions, but I'm not a criminal. I laughed. But you are a criminal, Jared. Your firm was a Ponzi scheme in disguise. Tim showed me the evidence himself. Jared's face fell. You already talked to him? Of course I did. I'm thorough. My mother gasped and clutched her chest. Ronan, please, your father's health is getting worse. The stress from all of this is killing him. What's killing him is the cancer, I corrected. The cancer he could have treated months ago if keeping up appearances hadn't been more important to him. Sabrina still hadn't spoken. She sat with her eyes down, staring at her hands. What do you want, Sabrina? I asked, catching her off guard. Why are you even here? She looked up, eyes rimmed with red. I want another chance. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm asking anyway. These past few months have made it painfully clear how big a mistake I made. You mean the mistake of sleeping with my brother behind my back? Or was it the mistake of getting caught? Or maybe realizing that Jared isn't the perfect golden boy you thought he was? She flinched. All of it. I was flattered by his attention. You were always working, and he was there telling me I was beautiful, that I deserved more. I was weak. Classic predator behavior, I said, nodding. And you fell for it. Yes, she whispered. I did. And I've lost everything because of it. I looked around the table, my brother, my mother, my ex-wife, all staring at me, silently begging me to fix everything for them. To swoop in and clean up the mess. As I always had. This is what I'm going to do, I said at last. Nothing. I'm going to keep living my life, my very good and very successful life, without any of you in it. I turned to Jared. You're going to face the consequences of your actions, legal and otherwise. To my mother. You're going to take care of Dad and finally accept the truth. Your golden child is a fraud. And finally to Sabrina, you're going to move on. But not with me. Please, Jared begged, voice cracking. At least help with Dad. The treatments are expensive, and my accounts are frozen. I've already taken care of his medical expenses, I cut in. But not for you. And not for Mom. I did it because, despite everything, he's still my father. The bills are paid. He'll get the best care available. That doesn't mean I want a relationship with him or with any of you. My mother began to cry. Ronan, please, we're all sorry. I know, I said, standing. But here's the thing about, I'm sorry, it only means something when it comes from genuine remorse, not just regret over consequences you didn't expect. I left several $100 bills on the table to cover the untouched meal. Do not contact me again. Any of you. I've already notified my lawyer, the building's security, and the hospital staff accordingly. This is the last time we will speak, I said as I walked away. Behind me, Sabrina called out, Ronan, you can't just leave us like this. Please. I turned back one final time. I'm not leaving you. You left me. I'm just finally accepting it. Outside, my new girlfriend was waiting in my Porsche, a brilliant neurosurgeon who would never even imagine sleeping with my non-existent brother. She smiled as I slid into the driver's seat and gently squeezed my hand. How did it go? She asked. It's over, I said, feeling lighter than I had in years. Finally, completely over. As we pulled away, I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw the three of them standing on the sidewalk: Jared, my mother, Sabrina. Then the light changed, and I pressed the accelerator, leaving them behind for good. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.